changes spanning generations, or a shift in the wind, a body dormant underground. This world is right.
Welcome to Onward Live, a live stream focused on encouraging you to create a life you love living now. Let's go beyond success to significance. Being clear on our why is crucial. It requires doing the inner work, finding ourselves, getting to know ourselves, embracing our inner child, shedding social conditioning, and letting go of perfect. We know obstacles make us stronger. We can dream big and take action. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. I invite you to tune in every week and engage with me and my inspiring guests. Invite your friends. Let's make time for what matters most in our lives. Let's move onward together. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Onward Live. And I also take this and publish it as the Onward podcast about a month from now. So I'm Emily Harmon. I'm the host of Onward Live and the Onward podcast. And each week on Wednesday night, I come live at 7:30 Eastern, and I just bring guests a lot of them lately have been guests that have helped me along my journey of awakening, my journey of coming back to myself, my journey of discovering who I really am at the core. I've shared my story. But if you're this is the first time you've heard it, I retired from the Department of the Navy in May of 2019. And I had achieved. I made it to the top. I was a senior executive, but I just felt like something was missing. And I wasn't really having meaningful conversations. I was always too busy to have those meaningful conversations. And I knew that I wasn't feeling my feelings. I was too busy. And I knew that it was my job that was keeping me so busy. So I figured that once I retired, things were going to be so much better. I was going to be more relaxed, and I was going to have more time to just work out and go on hikes and do what I wanted to do. And then what I realized is when I retired, I was busier than ever. And I couldn't point at a job. I had to point myself. It was me causing this work. I knew I wanted to be a coach, but I just was conditioned to achieve, push, keep going. And I really didn't know how to relax. And I've gotten so much better at that. And a lot of it is with the help of a counselor who referred me to Whitney, my guest tonight. And a lot of it is with the help of all the guests that I've interviewed on this show. The show initially started out as the Onward podcast, facing adversity and moving forward. Because that's what had done all my life up until then, just push through. And now that I'm an energy leadership coach, certified, I'm excited about that. I've learned that that's like level 3 energy, looking at the bright side. But there's 7 levels of energy, and push energy, looking at the bright side, moving forward, achieving, keep getting things done. That's level 3. And sometimes when you're in that level 3 energy, you avoid your feelings because they would be distracting from you getting something done. And so that's where I was. So the initial podcast was Onward Podcast, Facing Adversity and Moving Forward. And then I changed it to Facing Adversity, Moving Forward, and Discovering Ourselves Along the Way, because I was learning so much about myself that I wanted to share with everybody. And then I recently changed it in January to Create a Life You Love Living Now. And the instigator behind that is my former husband. He was in the intro video. There's a picture of me with him and the kids. Because right after I retired, he got sick with cancer and passed away in 5 months. He was paralyzed within 2 weeks of his cancer diagnosis. And then he passed away 5 months later. And I saw him suffering, and I saw him suffering with regrets about how he had lived his life. And I think a lot of his stress and anxiety manifested itself in his body. as the cancer. And I know that he passed away with regrets. And so I encourage people to create a life you love living right now. And I haven't been very clear on my target audience. My target audience is my target client, women who are in their 50s, maybe 60s, getting ready to retire or have just retired, high achievers, still want to accomplish, yet they're tired of accomplishing and feeling yet still something is missing. What's missing is our inner peace, our inner joy. It doesn't come from outside circumstances. Our stress isn't always caused solely by our jobs. It's our thoughts and our thoughts which generate our feelings, our thoughts about those jobs. And that's what I learned about me. It was my thoughts that were driving me. And so I'm excited to bring Whitney on because I just started working with her in early March, and I've already felt a lot better. And I'll bring her on, and then I'll kind of explain why I started working with her. But she's helped me tremendously in managing my health and my depression with holistic options. And so we're going to be talking about healthcare tools for living your best life, living a life you love living now. So welcome, Whitney.
Oh, it's such a joy to be here with you, Emily. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're here. I always like to welcome our guests. If you're here, let us know. Nikita, thank you for watching. You've already let us know that you're here. I see that there's some more people watching, so let us know where you're watching. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Whitney and I are in the Shenandoah Valley. I'm in Stanton, you're near Harrisonburg, right?
Mhm.
I think in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. So we love the mountains out here in the valley. So Whitney, Mary recommended, my counselor recommended I start working with you, and I'm glad that she did. And the reason was, I think the instigator, maybe other things too, but is like every time I go on a trip and get out of my normal routine kind of thing, and then when I come back, that's when I noticed that I was noticing that I was starting to feel like depressed. Like it was really hard for me to get back into my regular routine. And she recommended I started working with you, and I did. And then I went on a 2-week trip, which was a really, fun trip, but also could be challenging. I spent a week with my roommate from the Naval Academy in Seattle, Washington. So I traveled all the way across the country. And then on the way back, I stayed a whole extra week with my daughter in Denver. So I was gone 2 weeks, kind of out of my routine. And when I came back with the tea regimen and stuff that you had me on, I didn't have that feeling, and I was so excited. So anyway, that's why I started working with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can address, how you helped me out. But tell us how you got into this herbal studies and holistic health.
Yes, so I am tuning in from Massanutten Mountain, and it's a local buffalo mountain in the Shenandoah Valley. And I have been interested in holistic health for so long. I really didn't have a lot of great options when I was growing up, though. And it wasn't until I lived in Santa Fe for a few years, which is like one of these centers for holistic health in the country. There's lots of acupuncture, massage schools there. It's just very normalized to receive professional holistic health services all the time. But that was not my norm before that. And I've also gone through a lot of my own personal health struggles. And I found that holistic therapies have really worked for me. And I was diagnosed with a brain condition when I was 20 years old, and I was given a 50% chance to live. Obviously, I'm on the other side of that right now. But it started about an 8-year journey for me, looking for ways to heal. And I was already very into conscious living at that point. I'd spent several years traveling around the world, working on organic farms, really clean with my diet and lifestyle. I had a merit scholarship at an Ivy League school. Like, there were a lot of really good things going, and it was really such a surprise for me. So I found that health is complex. That a lot of young women are struggling in major ways. And I see that a lot in my private practice, and that there weren't easy answers. But it started a really deep quest for me. And I learned so much in that process. I lived in New Mexico for several years, received so much healing, found out that this was actually my path to also be of service and healing toward others. And I found several things were really monumental in my journey. One was finding Ayurveda. And I've been doing yoga regularly for over 20 years. I grew up doing a lot of gymnastics and dance. Yoga really filled in a missing piece for me, and it was like no looking back since then. Initially, it helped with a lot of back pain that I was experiencing from a gardening job, working with native plants. And I remember I was 16, I was like, I'm having back pain, and just seemed too young to be experiencing that. And my back pain completely went away by doing yoga. And
Wow.
yeah, it was dramatic. And so that stayed as a regular part of my lifestyle from then on out. But it also brought me into a lot of deeper aspects over time. And I've studied with a lot of different lineages. And that's something that I bring a lot into my work with people. And eventually that led me to studying Ayurveda very in depth. And that's the twin healing science of yoga. That's like the health and wellness. And that's something that completely shifted my life. So I had a lot of tools, which were very valuable, and I was receiving a lot of regular body work. I was looking deeply at stress management, but I really didn't have an understanding on a day-to-day basis about lifestyle and how that could really support my optimal health and well-being. And it really helped me with being in the world full-time, of having tools on a day-to-day basis and not just recharging on the weekends, to increase my energy levels, sustainability. And then I opened a private healing arts practice over 6.5 years ago. It's been my full-time job since then. That's what led me to you and so many women. And I found in the first year of my practice, there was just this gaping need for hormonal balance for the female body, and that so many women falling through the cracks. And I myself, as part of my own healing journey, was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, an autoimmune condition. And I don't know how many years, that I fell under the radar. But once I knew that it was going on, and I have this amazing holistic healthcare team, and I still, rely on them very much as I do this for other people. And I was able to reverse it in 1 year, 100% naturally. So I've been through it, and I share those tools with other women. But also, so many women approach me, just have been trying for years and years and really struggling, and still feeling like they weren't getting the results that they were looking for, like greater balance and ease in their body, higher energy levels, ways to deal with anxiety and depression. And looking at more clarity, for their life purpose, and just feeling like more fulfilled. So I found it's a very complex issue without easy answers. And, I have best friends that are MDs, nurse practitioners, acupuncturists. Everything I do is 100% natural and holistic. And I'm a clinical herbalist. And so I have a very integrated approach. I take each person where they're at. They choose their healthcare team. I have a very non-competitive approach, and I just join in and I fill in with any missing pieces that can support their highest health and well-being. And you were referred to me by dear counselor, yoga therapist, and you enrolled for one of my 6-month programs. And that's my main offering for women like you, and at any time in their life. And I do a really in-depth, customized health intake.
Very in depth. Yeah, which is awesome.
So yeah, that sets the tone. I learned so much about you on an individual level. So, there's, a million things that we could do. And, there's internet medicine. You can learn about, anything you want to in a general sense. And a lot of it can be very helpful, but a lot of women still also feel stuck knowing whether it's the right choice for them, and whether it's safe, is it the right timing? That's why I have such a customized approach, because there just are a lot of things that can't be recommended in a general sense,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to herbs.
And I had been started on fluoxetine, which is, I think, one of the names for Prozac or something. I had been started on that by my OBGYN when I was probably, I don't know, in my 40s sometime. And she said it was like perimenopause. That was, I was just really stressed. Well, I had a lot of things going on in my life too, with my kids and things like that, and work, and, didn't have the skills to, in some cases, handle a lot of the stressful things that I was undergoing. And so, when I took that pill, 20 milligrams, it really took the edge off. But then and I had been on it even up until when I retired. So probably, I don't know, 15 or more years, probably more, to 20. And I wanted to start coming off of it because Mary, my counselor, had said how that prohibits you from feeling your feelings. And so remember at the beginning of the show, I said, I knew I wasn't really feeling my feelings. And so I guess it kind of levels you off, and you don't really have any highs and lows. You just kind of stay stable. But it's also like taking a pill that I don't even know what's in it. And I wanted to come off of it. And so now I'm down to 10 milligrams. And, we talk tomorrow, but I'm not ready to come down further yet, I don't think. But anyway, what the herbal teas and some of the other things that you gave me, which we can talk about, are really helping as well. Can you explain like how those help? And is that an area, because I think that's an area that you help women in quite a bit, right? That coming off that medicine.
Yeah, well, I take each woman where they're at, and some of them will approach me at a very different place in their life, looking for other choices and options. I'll be the first person to recommend somebody stay on something and to get lots of lab work. I think that's very valuable, and I cross-refer all the time. And so I only do that process when somebody's working with a prescribing physician.
Yeah.
We work together as a team, and everybody's on board at the same time. And a lot of times people, there's very high benefits to something like that in that time of your life. It was the perfect medicine. However, you're at a very different place in your life, and sometimes that can have negative side effects over a long period of time. And that's something that a lot of people are looking to avoid. They're looking for safer long-term options, and also might be ready at a different place in their life to explore what it's like to not have that veil, to go deeper with their emotions. And typically people have done a lot of inner transformational work when they get to that place. And so they really aren't the same person anymore. And they're just a lot more stable in a lot of ways. I provide a lot of foundational holistic nutrition recommendations. And like for you, like, your blood sugar balance, even though you were super conscious with healthy eating and just, cooking all your own foods, and a lot of my people start out at a very advanced level, and you did for sure. However, there were still, some gaping missing pieces, and, blood sugar imbalance is a huge trigger for anxiety and depression, right? And so, and that's something that is safe within any of our means to look at, and just having more regular meals, having increased healthy fats.
Yes.
And your sugar cravings went away.
Yeah, they did. I don't really crave sugar like I used to. And I didn't even really notice that, but I had been on that 2-week trip, and which is a time when you get out of your routine, is when maybe you can eat kind of junky foods and stuff. But I did a little bit with my friend Darlene. We had like chocolate covered almonds or something, but for the most part, I wasn't craving that kind of food. And so it felt really good. My body was just feeling so much more healthy. And you had mentioned that inner journey. That's the journey I've been on a lot. When you're like looking at your life, becoming more aware, going on that inner journey, you need to be able to feel your feelings. And I think that the medicine was keeping me from getting sad about something or getting really happy about something. It was just kind of keeping me level.
Mhm.
So now at where I am now with the 10, I definitely feel my feelings and I want to get off of it, but it's something that, you kind of go off of it really slowly. So
Mhm.
yeah. So the tea that you recommended for me, did I show you this? That I keep it in this jar that my mom made. And, that's where the tea is that you recommended. She made this
Oh,
nice
that's
little
fun.
jar for me. And
Mhm.
then and then I told her, well, it would be nice to have a spoon. So she made me another one. Uh, and it has where I can keep my spoon. This is for that heart powder stuff that you gave me. So I just wanted to share that. My mom's always making such awesome pottery for me.
Oh, I love that. That's super special. And yeah, I'm a former potter, so definitely appreciate that. And when you're looking at herbal blends, I think for most people, it's just normalizing that more as part of our daily routines. And there's all herbalist about this being the people's medicine, and
Hmm.
there's so much medicine growing in our backyard. And you know how strict I am about sourcing, that everything is sustainably sourced, wild crafted. There's no harm done in the whole process. And we're taking things that have the ability to grow again and be in a reciprocal relationship. And so if we're getting really high quality, fresh, high vibration herbs, then we're bringing nature's whole medicine, and we're infusing it. And there's just so many gifts. It's endless, within nature. And with herbal medicine, I find, within industrialized countries, it's a trend that's changing, but the U.S. is really at, the bottom as far as accessibility of herbal medicine
Yeah.
and education. Places like the UK, it's completely normalized. There are botanical colleges there that were never forced to close. These things are changing a lot, but I think a lot of people have a fear of taking herbs or don't take it in high enough amounts for a long enough period of time to get optimal benefit. There's just a lot of reasons why people might be reticent to embracing that. And it's always very, very important to be very safe and use common sense and work with a practitioner. But there's a lot of things that we can do in a short amount of time, to learn about, home first aid remedies and teas we can drink on a daily basis. What I do with people like you, when we're looking at a more longer in-depth program, after doing, an extensive comprehensive intake, I'll make custom herbal formulas. And for you,
Hmm.
you've been taking enough to last for 6 months. And, I recess along the way. I'm checking in with you to see how you're feeling. It's extremely rare that there are drug herbal interactions, but it is possible. And so I just also run by everything you're currently taking just to make sure everything is very safe and appropriate. That can just make such a big difference. It's just a great ally. Life is hard.
Yeah.
Health is hard. And herbs can really make a huge difference. You've been on a tea blend, a custom powder blend, and also a flower essence blend.
Yes. Yeah. These drops that I put under my tongue, flower essence. And,
Mm.
yeah, I love them in a pretty blue bottle. What do all those things what do all those things do for me?
Mhm.
What can they
Oh,
do for
yes.
somebody?
Oh, okay. Well, we need several hours.
Well, okay. At a top level, like what do they do? So I'm drinking the tea too out of a mug that my mom gave me.
Oh, that's so beautiful. We'll have to talk more about pottery.
Hmm.
Uh, when we're looking at the hundreds and hundreds of herbs that are in our Herbal Pharmacopia, we're also looking at a lot of different lineages, where the herbs are sourced, how they were grown. And so, a very common herb that's in a lot of people's backyards now, dandelion. A lot of people think it's a weed. It's actually a very powerful medicine. It's really good for female hormonal balance. And it's very supportive for the liver. It has a hepatic protective action. And that's something you can, dig up and twist the roots and make a tea out of it. And it's
Cool.
amazing medicine. So there's so many things like that we don't realize. It's actually a lot closer than we may realize. Now, there's a lot of herbs that have long-standing clinical use, like ones that you're on, like Brahmi, hawthorn, guduchi, ashwagandha, ginger. These have been used in a lot of herbal medicine traditions for a very long time, thousands of years. And so we can just acknowledge that these are evidence-based systems. And I like to combine both traditional cultural wisdom with modern health research. Let's bring the best of both of those worlds together. And with herbs, we're looking at what do you need to balance your system right now. And so I mean, there could be hundreds of herbs that could help you for one condition. And like there's tons of herbal sedatives, for insomnia. That's a huge issue that I see. A lot of people struggle with sleep issues. There's more mild or severe. And I make custom herbal remedies all the time for pregnant women. And so we know that there are a lot of gentle herbs that are safe for that delicate time. And so, no matter where you are in your life, there's herbs that are for you. Yeah, it's just a matter of connecting the dots.
What about for menopause?
Yes. So I work with a lot of women that time of life, and things can dramatically shift. And you might just feel like you have a very different body. And so a lot of hormonal normalizers are very helpful. In India, shatavari is a food and medicine that women take, and it pretty much neutralizes negative side effects around menopause. They just don't have the same rate of incidence we have here. So that's a really lovely one. And you can add that to food. You can make that as a tea. I just made a shatavari latte yesterday with almond milk, dates, cardamom, cinnamon, saffron, a little bit of nutmeg. Blended it up with like a quarter teaspoon of shatavari. It was so delicious. So that's just a simple, like you can, put your medicinal herbs into food. And
we've been having our sessions over Zoom, and I think we meet again tomorrow, but my next session, I'm coming out there.
Yeah. So I have an in-person place with my apothecary, and we can meet out in the woods. I have, some private nature setting places. I also meet all over the country and world on Zoom. I've been doing that a long time before COVID, but especially over the past couple of years. There's also a rasa tea that I recommend a lot. So there's so much. And I'm just talking in a general way, this evening. Yeah. And there might be specific things for every person that's listening that might be more helpful for their unique system. Right? But usually when people are running into complications around menopause, there's been a lot of stress for a long time leading up to that. And the kidney and adrenal organs have just been taxed for a long time, and they start to take on more of the functioning of some of our other reproductive organs. That's just the design. That's what happens. It's the natural process that we don't have to demonize it. But if the kidney and adrenal organs are in really good condition, then it's going to be a smooth transition. So we want to look at reducing stress on all levels. We also want to look at building up the kidney adrenal functioning. If there's been any, history of fatigue or weakness. And also we want to look at what are the long-term goals for that person too? Where are they looking to go? They're still working full time. Do they have a more relaxed schedule? And we just want to make sure that things are really practical that can work for them where they are in their life. And it doesn't matter where a person is, you can always do something. So on a lifestyle level, stress management for sure. We also want to look at buffering up the first layer of tissue that's nourished after we eat food. Which we call in Ayurveda the rasa layer, plasma layer. And a lot of times that tends to dry up around menopause. And so that's a place that I like to always start to make sure that that layer of the body and those tissues are very strong and nourished. And so that's through plenty of hydration, not only with liquids, but also with healthy fats, which you've been doing. Yeah. And that's making a huge difference. And I find most women are deficient in that. They just skimp out on that.
Yeah. So I don't know why someone posted this, but maybe you know this. Turkey tail, is that a herb or something? I don't know.
Mushroom.
Okay.
I saw it over the winter hiking. It's beautiful and has these like rainbow colors coming out. I have some friends that will harvest mushrooms. It hasn't been my specialty. I love to work with reishi. And I know people that do like whole mushroom like programs. It's really good for the immune system. I know a lot of times it's taken for immunomodulator action. Sometimes they have to be careful with thyroid issues to have too many mushrooms. So that's why, again, we want to look at each unique person. But yeah, that's a fabulous one.
Okay. And then, oh, Kelly asked that. My friend Kelly. Hi, Kelly. And then Elizabeth is asking, what about migraines?
Yes. Yeah, a lot of women struggle with that. And that's something that can show up with classic hormonal imbalances. So PMS symptoms, rocky menopause road. And just like if you had a problem with your car and you went to the mechanic, there could be 20 or 30 different things, that could be at the root of the same problem. It's similar with migraines. So what's going on for you, there might be 20 or 30 different reasons why somebody has them. As a whole, though, being deficient in blood, making sure a person's not anemic, and I recommend somebody get lab testing for that, because that can show up especially around heavy bleeding, like situational anemia. Too much stress, not having enough juicy yin hormones, for deficient in progesterone, that causes a whole host of complications. And there are whole herbs that can help with that hormonal normalizer action, like shatavari, also chaste tree berry, and dong quai. There's several that can, help in that regard if there is a deficiency, but that can trigger migraines. Dehydration is a big one too, making sure somebody has plenty of water and liquids. MSG is another one. Which unfortunately is added into a lot of ingredients, even the natural ones. In the States, you have to really dig carefully to make sure that's not added in. Sometimes just removing that from the diet can make a huge difference. Plenty of sleep, making sure that the sleep routine is really solid, you're falling asleep easily, getting a good night's rest. And usually, for migraines, it's not just one thing, it's many things together. And we just keep knocking off, anything that might be out of balance until enough things come together that just hopefully resolves for you.
Yeah. Wow. So, someone said MSG, the natural flavor.
Yes, it's disguised as natural. So you read the product ingredients and it says natural flavors and you think it's natural and it's actually just a cheap disguise for MSG.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you all for tuning in. I see Gracie, Ruth is here, and Ligia is here from Costa Rica. So yeah. And then Elizabeth said migraines more due to weather changes and smells.
Yeah, I know. I have a history of horrible migraines, and I worked as a Johns Hopkins neurologist for a while. And there's one that has a great book of like Heal Your Headache 1, 2, 3. And that's a nice resource. I found from my own unique system that I have to be really strict with chemicals, and I don't do anything that is really synthetic as far as cleaners in my house. All the essential oils that I do with aromatherapy are 100% wildcrafted or organic. Also fair trade, sustainably sourced. Just removing a lot of those triggers. I have a really good friend that can walk by like a synthetic fragrance store and immediately gets a migraine. So yeah, sometimes it's avoiding those things, but try to minimize as much as you can in your house. Also, the changes in barometric pressure, when a rainstorm starts to come on, I know you can start to, get a migraine. But usually, again, it's not just that one factor. It's like many of those things and it's compounded together. So there's some things we can control, some things we can't. We can't control the weather. We can control other things. So if we can decrease those other things below your threshold, then we decrease the likelihood of a rainstorm triggering a migraine.
Yeah. Awesome. Great questions. Let's see if there's another one. There's, we've got Dr. Alexandria Rosa tuning in from Ohio. Hello.
Hi.
And then I was wondering, like, why is it that this kind of natural herbal remedies, these kinds of remedies, are not as prevalent in the United States as they are in other areas? What's your opinion on that?
Yes, that's a great question. Well, born and raised American, very loyal. And, I come from a long lineage of veterans. Both my grandfathers, were in World War II. And so it's out of so much love for wanting the very best for everybody. And just noticing that sometimes there's things that have happened where people haven't really cared as much about health and well-being. Because if they did, then, certain things wouldn't have happened. But they did. And we kind of have to acknowledge that history. And like there was a time when breastfeeding was recommended to be avoided. And we know now that's just been completely debunked. A lot of that was like, when profit is more of a concern over health.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes we just don't have enough information, or people try things because they think it'll be helpful, whatever that may be. But there's just a much lower usage of herbal medicine, actually outlawed. There were all of the early pharmacists in the US were herbalists. And you could look at that, in all the historical texts. And we're looking at hundreds of years of herbal medicine, and all settlers 100% relied on herbal medicine to survive, because that's what all indigenous people practiced and offered here. So it's really much the medicine of this land, and it's still here and it's still alive and well. And I think it's just a matter of accepting with integrity and respect that we can still apply the medicine that's still living here.
Yeah. And I mean, like, all right, you've got a long list of training in this area. Just so many different things, and you're very detailed. And so there's a lot of, I know that you put a lot of thought and education and training into everything that you do for your clients. It's clear. It's clear in the debrief, in the first initial intake session, all the detailed questions that you ask and all the things that we go over. I see you also have a certification in Reiki. I interviewed somebody recently about Reiki, and I've started doing that. And so like that's why I bring in all these different people, because it's like Reiki, yoga, all these things that I never really learned about that much when I was too busy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can stay on the busy train for a long time and not know how to get off. And that's a huge thing for taproot hormonal imbalances, is learning how to turn off the stress triggers. And then there's healthy stress. We need but when it's too much and becomes toxic over a long period of time, that can actually be harmful to us.
Yeah.
And that's huge for women. It always comes up. We always have to look at, okay, what is really the stress about? Let's keep pulling back the layers and going back to the origin. And that can look very different for every woman, but definitely overwork. That just never creates a good situation in the long term. So just giving more permission to rest. And having family and work cultures that really support that, it makes a huge difference. Knowing people really love and care about you, positive socialization. So yeah, everybody here is welcome to contact me and apply for a complimentary breakthrough session to see if I'd be a good fit to work with you one-on-one. And occasionally I do group programs and workshops as well. So yeah, feel free to be in touch, and we can just, meet for an hour or so and just find if this is, something that would be appropriate for you. With herbal medicine and what the benefits that you've gotten is that you've been doing it regularly over a long period of time. And within a month, your energy levels increased dramatically, and your resistance to stress. And we were targeting those things. That's what they should do over time. Not to say that it always will work for everybody, not at all, but for you it did. And there's a saying in Ayurveda that what works for one person might be the complete opposite for the next. And there's also another saying that everything works for somebody, but nothing works for everybody. So we also have to learn how our bodies change over time and throughout the year. Also, hence, 4 seasons harmony. What we do to take care of ourselves in the summer might be completely different in the winter. And it's not that it's good or bad. It's just applying the right choices in medicine and the right timing. So more cooling foods would be very helpful and appropriate, like cilantro and coconut and watermelon in the thick of the summer heat. And there's a lot of lifestyle practices that can help with that. And in the middle of the winter, when it's so cold, we want more heating foods, internally, and heating spices and herbs, things like cloves, cinnamon, ginger, things that really warm up the system. And then we also look at a person's constitution, in relation to the season. So it's not like health is always static or we make all the same choices all the time. It's about this dance and really honoring ourselves, getting to know ourselves really well, and just owning what works for us.
Yeah, honoring ourselves and knowing ourselves well. Like, this hasn't been the best week for me, and I think that it's like a combination of a whole bunch of things that have happened. One is I stubbed my toe and my whole foot is swollen, and so there's pain there. And then I started getting pain in my hip from boxing. So I went to a chiropractor today and I definitely feel better. But when I have all that pain, it takes away from my ability, my wanting to, concentrate on some of the tasks that I need to do. And then I think the pollen too, all of that combined is just like, this has been a tiring week for me. And I don't know, maybe also because I turned 59 on Monday. It's just a combination of a bunch of things. And then emotions come up. And so one thing I've did today is just give myself a friggin' break, which is not something I've always done. And, just relaxed and made my tea and not tried to accomplish. And it felt good. And that in the past is something that has been very hard for me to do. I would have, probably just kind of pushed through it or had like negative thoughts about like, I should be able to keep going. Or, I had trouble meditating and I was talking to Mary, my counselor, and she's like, thanks, Nikita. And she's like, well, when you're trying to sit there and meditate, but then your foot hurts and your hip hurts and stuff like that, it takes away, your attention from that. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. And what do you recommend when someone's doing pretty well and then has a period like that of time?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I'm really sorry that happened. That doesn't sound like any fun. And you're mending very quickly. Also, you are not alone. This always happens. And this is why I've set up longer term programs. It's just people get the best results for making a commitment and going through all of the ebbs and flows, that we all experience. And it's not a matter of if we're going to have more challenges, it's a matter of when.
Yeah.
And, and we can all probably relate to that, right? And COVID definitely brought this to the forefront. And I found so many people reaching out. This is like lives were turned upside down. Some people had a strong health foundation, were able to go through more smoothly, but so many people struggled so much and just looking for a reset and looking to reconnect. And also, it's almost like a rebirthing. Like, who am I now at this time? How do I relate to others in my community in a healthy way? How do I keep my health at the top of my priority list? So there's an herb called bone set that, if you have any kind of broken bones, it can help speed the healing process dramatically. So that's something we definitely want to look at. And thank goodness we're talking tomorrow, so we can go into that. And also topicals. So, arnica is really great for pain relief. You probably heard of that. I also love helichrysum, frankincense, and looking at keeping that area very lubricated with lots of oils. That always helps with wound healing. There's compresses and poultices that are very easy to make. And if just depending on the type of, skin wound healing that needs to happen, we might do that a couple of times a day, or you can go to sleep with a tea that you've made that then turns into some kind of compress. So also resting is one of the very best things you can do, after an injury. And that can be the hardest thing in the world is resting more. But I think the more we normalize that, like I work with so many leaders, and every person is a leader in their own life. People that are heading organizations, mothers, matriarchs, people that have a lot of responsibility and their decisions influence a lot of other people. And they're getting burned out. They don't know how to manage stress. And they look for me, for support, and they change their life. They normalize their routine. They find that they can actually rest and take really good care of themselves and be very productive. It's
Yeah.
actually a win-win. And sometimes I think it was like the more we do externally, the more productive we can be. But that has a shelf life to it, right? That's
Yeah.
just a short-term solution to get by. It's more of a survivalistic type of mode. But if we
Right.
have more of a thriving type of mentality, yes, there is space to take really good care of ourselves. And there's space to be very active. And actually, I've seen that like there's no other way. If you want to make a difference and selfless service for your family and community, like take really good care of your health and well-being. So resting is great medicine.
Yeah. We might think that we don't have time for that, but it's like, how do we not have time to take care of the body that we live in, right? It has to last a long time. So we need to make that time and to take care of our minds. Let's see. Donjette posted a little comment here when you were talking about the foods, and Southerners practice natural holistic medicine, polk salad, fresh homegrown fruits and veggies raised with no pesticides. So yeah, no pesticides is, sometimes hard to find, but it's important to make that decision. Like my mom will not buy strawberries unless they're grown organically, because I guess that's the number one fruit where all the pesticides like stick to it and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
For strawberries is a bad one, is what I understand. But okay, so if you're into the herbal medicines and stuff, what about marijuana? What are your thoughts of
That's
that?
a super popular question. And there's actually an entire major at my university. I'm just finishing a Master's of Science in Clinical Herbal Medicine from the Maryland University of Integrative Health. And there's like a whole degree now on cannabis. So it's huge. And we have a really good family friend that's been doing that full time for a while. It's not my specialty per se. I definitely know about CBD topical oils. I was just working with a woman this past week. It's one of the very best things that she does for her peripheral neuropathy pain, and can really help with sleep in the evening. So there's a lot of medicinal benefits with the oil. I work more with CBD. Now, it can also help, with glaucoma, a lot of health conditions. And that's why, it's been very highly prized in that way. However, there's a lot of other anti-inflammatories. And, in my scope of practice as a clinical herbalist, there's lots of other choices as well. And sometimes those are overlooked, I find, just because it's like very popular right now.
I see. Okay. So is that something you're going to start working with, or?
Yeah, one of my clients has been trying to get me to go down the road to where her son works at this like beautiful organic, a cannabis dispensary. And it's something that I've seen the entire time. People have been taking this for years and years. It's more so finding a high quality source that's reasonable. Usually other anti-inflammatories I find are much more reasonable. So a lot of times it's just been a cost thing, but they're great. And something that, I definitely agree is wonderful. I like combinations of herbs a lot, I love formulas. So it's like the synergistic effect of blending herbs together, like 1 + 1 = 10. Like that's how it goes a lot of times. So, topical CBD, I'm like, yes, and let's add frankincense and helichrysum and lavender. Let's just get it all going on.
So do you grow a lot of like the herbs, or where did you get the herbs that are in my tea that you sent me?
Yes. So right now, I don't have a public retail store that I do, but I have lots of people that I love and refer to. So I work mostly in my private practice in a customized way with people. So after we do an intake, then I'll recommend herbs to you. And that's what I stock in my apothecary. So I have a medicinal garden, which I love. It's more small scale. And I mostly look to Pacific botanicals, Banyan botanicals, and select growers around this area like Radical Roots, Organic Farms, Avalon Farm, and Broadway. And again, you can grow a lot of these things at home for sure. And like Tulsi is one of my all-time favorite teas. It grows so well in Southern Appalachia. It's also synonymous with holy basil. So if basil grows well in your garden, plant Tulsi and make tea out of it. So yeah, Pacific Botanicals only sells by the pound at a time. So that's more large scale. Banyan Botanicals would have smaller amounts, and you can find them online easily.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, this is Kelly. She says she uses arnica with herself and her Newfoundlands.
Oh, lovely. Yes, and I was just meeting with some clinical herbalists a couple weeks ago. We were talking about Astragalus is really good for preventing tick bites, which also just preventing Lyme. So if you like to be outside, which I do, I like live outdoors, um, and just make sure to go out protected. But taking Astragalus internally is really good for humans and animals. So
Okay.
yeah, and I do flower essences for animals all the time. It's amazing for behavioral issues. Also hospice care. I did that for one of my clients. Like she had a dog that was like 18, his like
Mm,
family member was passing, and it helped him go so peacefully. So yeah, herbal medicine is for all beings and for your pets too.
that's awesome.
Mhm.
So let's see. I wanted to share a couple things. If nobody has any questions, I want to get into. Well, we have one here, maybe. Oh, you work with dogs? Question mark.
So I'm not a veterinarian. I have a really good veterinarian friend, but yes, uh, we would want to look at the size of the dog and weight to determine dosage. But most anything that humans can take, most dogs can take too. There's
Awesome.
Yeah, same thing with children too. With pediatric dosing, I like to teach all of my families. It's like, okay, if you learn basic tools about how to take herbal medicine safely, you can extend that to everybody in your life, and including pets. And there's a few things we have to keep in mind for safety. With children and infants. However, it's mostly finding out the correct dosage, and it's just finding out the weight, the size, and then just reducing it so in its appropriate amount, and then people can feel a lot more confident.
Well, Nikita says, I'm very interested in incorporating herbal medicines. I just feel overwhelmed listening. Yeah. And so, you know, um, there, Whitney knows a lot about this. She's been studying it for a long time, and she's really good at explaining it. So she can go into as much depth as you want on the topic. So, highly recommend scheduling a call with her and just talking with her about it. Maybe you guys can even partner up or something. And in case you don't want to do it yourself, you want to refer some of your clients to Whitney. I've done that. So that's something that you could do as well. So let me put up, this is Whitney's website, and she has a holistic health newsletter that she sends out. How often does that go out?
Yeah, that's complimentary. Everybody who's welcome to get on my email list, and
Okay.
I'll share other updates and news every so often. And that goes out with every equinox and solstice, so 4 times
Okay.
a year.
All right. Awesome. And then you have Instagram. I just happened to tune in. I don't go on Instagram a lot, but I looked in it one day, and you were putting my tea together on that day.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
had
It's
made a
like
little
this
video.
huge, like several hundred grams.
Yeah, yeah. And then you also have, this is a Facebook page. Yeah,
Mhm.
Four Seasons Harmony. So yeah, Nikita says thank you. And here's a question: are there basic beginner herbs people should start with?
Yeah, great question. So we can do a whole course, herbs, and I've been saying this for a long time. So some basic things to keep in mind is uh, looking at like owning a few herbs initially is how I recommend people starting out. So you choose like 10 herbs to focus on. And you have like in your cabinet. Now, if you look at your culinary herbal cabinet, things that you cook with regularly, those are all herbs. You just get in smaller amounts all the time. Oregano, thyme, basil, marjoram, ginger, cloves, turmeric. So you can look at those just in higher amounts, or just learning more about their herbal actions is a great starting place.
Hmm.
And there's just so many resources. Just go with what lights you up. Are you really interested about certain herbs over others? Start there. Just go with what your passion is. And it's something like Tulsi, which I mentioned earlier, that goes really well in Southern Appalachia. It's called holy basil. Very extensive use in Ayurvedic medicine, been around for thousands of years, and is considered like the queen of herbs of all the hundreds of herbs in the Ayurvedic Pharmacopia, which is saying a lot. So that's a really beautiful one, to maybe look at first as a suggestion. And that, just like basil, is something that is just super safe. it goes a little bit further than what we might associate with garden basil. It has an adaptogenic quality, which means it helps with the body's systemic resistance to stress. And who doesn't need more of that? That's one of the first herbs I get people on, just drinking as a small tea throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and let me know if you have any questions. But again, make sure your quality sourcing is really high. I have dozens of other companies too. Emily asked me for a couple of ideas, but I know many others. But whatever you're living, go talk to the local farmers at the market, see what's available there. What's accessible. Just make sure they're not using any sprays or chemicals. That movement is starting to thin out more for sure. Just make sure they're treated really well. And you can just make a simple tea to start off with. I was going to give a rasa tea recipe because you're asking about menopause. This could be true for a lot of different herbs as a baseline. So, and anybody who wants to email me, I can share, simple infusion and decoction recipe. So, if you're looking at tea bags, usually you want to have like 3 tea bags together to have more of a therapeutic dose. So that's usually about 5 grams a day. That's in the way low end. And so if you have a kitchen scale, you can measure your own herbs. So if you took thyme, for example, I made a thyme tea the other day. I mixed some other things in with it, marshmallow root, wild cherry bark. You just measure it about 5 grams, in that kitchen scale. And then you can put it in a little muslin bag or a tea ball, something like that. And you just pour hot water over it. And make sure it's always covered and let it steep. Boom, you're good to go. You can do that with so many different herbs. Now, it's something that is harder, like roots, berries, or bark. You want to make a decoction, which means you just want to simmer it, on the stove in water. Very simple to do, but you won't get the medicine if you just pour water over it, like flowers or leaves or aerial parts of herbs. And so you can just take like a tablespoon of a berry like schizandra, or astragalus root, and then pour some water over it and let it boil, 5-15 minutes, and keep it covered the whole time and let it sit. And then that's going to be better medicine. So there's different ways we suggest of taking different herbs with different, like various menstruums. Sometimes it's water, sometimes it's alcohol, sometimes it's a mixture of both. So every plant is just so unique. And that's the beauty of botanical medicine. It's like you're learning about nature, and you're learning about how much one single plant can offer you. So
that's amazing.
I could go on for hours, but
well, I just went today. I had mentioned to you that so someone just says, I think it's Kelly, I love this woman. Yay. I knew you guys would. That's why I brought Whitney on. So, hi, Bill. Thanks for joining. We were just talking about herbs and about holistic health. We're just wrapping up, but thank you for joining us, Bill. So I just went today to the Blackburn Inn to talk to them about having a retreat, probably in August or September. And so they're putting some pricing together. And I had talked to you, Whitney, about maybe having you come down for an hour or two just to give a session. Maybe we could, the place that I'm doing the retreat has a little kitchen. So maybe we could make a tea or, something like that. That would be fun.
Yeah, I did the Zoom medicine making show once from my kitchen. And I had all these preparations, and it was like, going around. I've done an Ayurveda for the 6 taste class at a food co-op, the Friendly City Food Co-op in Harrisonburg. That was really fun because they had like everything I could think of and all these samples.
Nice.
We have all the different tastes, and did a children's herbal first aid class, and I brought along samples and things everybody could take home. So cool. I find herbal medicine a lot of times, another benefit is just you get the sensorial experience of herbs. I mean, I just light up every time I get an herbal shipment, and I'm like, oh, I'm smelling the rose petals, and it just smells amazing. So just love all parts of the process. And just like having that experience will help your learning too. So it's not just, a theory or philosophy.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being my guest tonight, Whitney. I really enjoyed this interview, and I look forward to my session with you tomorrow. I'm just posting up here how to get to you on Instagram at Whitney, 4 Seasons Harmony, and here's your website, fourseasonsharmony.com. and you can learn a lot more about Whitney there, and you can reach out to her. And if you hopefully you'll schedule a time to meet with her. You will learn a lot for sure. So.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Emily. This is such a joy. And it's great to meet everybody here through the ethers. Please keep in touch. And I was just going to follow up briefly because I said I would give the Rasa tea recipe. If you were tuning in, this is a great menopause tea. It's great for other things. 1 tablespoon fenugreek or serpulary elm, 1 tablespoon flax, 1 tablespoon fennel, and 1 tablespoon marshmallow root.
Where do you get, I mean, we could go on, have another show. Like, where do you get marshmallow root, and where do you get the other thing that you mentioned at the beginning?
Yeah, Pacific Botanicals.
Okay.
Yeah, your local food co-op. If you have an apothecary close by, go check them out, see what they have in stock. There's one in Sperryville, Virginia, Charlottesville. But anyway, I just wanted to specifically give that recipe if you were waiting for that, because I said I would, and just use a quart of water over that. But yeah, thank you so much, Emily, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody that watched and joined in the conversation. It's always exciting when you do a live and you have people there watching and joining in. And if you have a particular topic you want me to cover in an upcoming episode, just message me. Let me know. I appreciate everybody that watches. I'll put you in the green room, Whitney, and we'll wrap this up.
All right, bye. Take care.
Onward Live is sponsored by Emily Harmon Coaching and Consulting. Visit my website, emilyharmon.com, to learn more about me and my coaching programs. I'd love to help you create a life you love living. Remember, every adversity is our own personal university. Sometimes the lessons are difficult, and we must learn from our experiences. Vulnerability is your superpower. You are lovable and worthy. And we discuss these topics and more because professional is personal. Thank you for joining us and engaging